Welcome back. South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Ashlyn, Sullivan, Al Morganti here with you the week. The Flyers season officially starts and hockey is officially underway. We had our first TNT game last night that we were able to watch. And I think the city of Philadelphia could use something new to get excited about, as unfortunately the Phillies season has ended. Eagles, will see what happens. And Sixers and Flyers, it's officially their time to get started here. A lot of expectations, excited, and I think definitely everyone's ready to get going now.
Yeah, so Ashlyn, how long you been here now?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So you get the Phillies collapse. Yeah. You saw the Eagles disaster. You saw the Sixers to the point where they had to go out and sign another free agent because expectations not met. Mm-hmm. And now you've got the Flyers. I guess this is what happens when you're not at the top of the heap. The expectations get more and more. So you are now a full-fledged Philadelphian in three sports anyway. Wow. We've seen everything tumble at the end after great expectations.
I feel the hurt. I felt the hurt with the Phillies for sure. It's wild that, I think especially with baseball and hockey to an extent, is it's so long and it's so built up and you work so hard and all these things that accomplish in the regular season for what? For it all to be over. I mean, it's over so quickly.
For a playoffs. And this is why people used to make fun of the NHL when 16 teams made it of 32. It's like, oh, half the league makes the playoffs. And I'd say, but the playoffs are great. When you go in, it doesn't, your regular season, you watch because you like the sport. And especially baseball now. Baseball has become what hockey is. Mm-hmm. You get into the postseason and some team with a hot goalie or some team that just hitting stride. I mean, look at what happened last year. Edmonton, basically, we thought not going to make the playoffs in November. To roll out, they go to the finals. Now, Florida went pretty good wire to wire. But for the most part, you go into the playoffs, man, just get there. And you never know what's going to happen. So as much as people don't like the Mets, man, they hit a stride, and they were a whisker away from not making it through that first series. And This is why eventually, there'll be more and more playoff teams, and it'll be like what the NHL is. And I think it's great. I think your regular season, you watch, you love the sport, you watch the sport, and then the drama of the playoffs is just it's irreplaceable in any sport, especially hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. As the Flyers now hope to get there this season, that's a question we've been getting asked a lot. And especially when you have some young stars, which makes this season feel so different than last year. And definitely a surprise, none of us would have said this a month ago, is Jett Luchanko has made the Flyers roster to open up this season. He's the youngest player in Flyers franchise history to do so at 18 years old, only by 2 months. Flyers first round pick just a couple months ago. And we knew he had so much upside. And I love Danny Briere and John Tortorella's honesty that this guy earned the spot. They couldn't take their eyes off him in camp, and they believe that he should be up here with the Flyers.
Yeah, I was surprised. Just because the eye on the prize for them has been building for the future, right? To get everything, ready for a couple of years from now when you be a cup contender, you presume. But John Tortorella, he looked at him in camp and it was like, hey, look, I'm going to just base my opinion on what I see at camp in front of me. And he was terrific. 18 years old, man. I'm just 18, as you mentioned. It's remarkable to me. Now, most hockey fans know you've got a 9-game basic trial here where you can get sent back after that. Mm-hmm. But once you go past that, you're on the team if you get past that level. This is going to be very interesting to me early in the season what they do. And Ashlyn, what I was floored by was not just making the team, but then Tortorella, just drops in there like, oh yeah, he's going to play power play and he's going to penalty kill. I'm like, wow, this is a lot on your dish going in. And 18 years old, I can't imagine the pressure. You've got 9 games to decide if you're going to stick with the NHL team and charter flights here and there and your contract, or you're going to go back to juniors and I'm sure you go back with a good attitude, but boy, that's got to be, you got a taste of that, man. You don't want to leave.
Right. And we'll see how he does, but it's clear that the Flyers, they just need skill. They need speed, and Jett Luchanko has that. So I understand the balance of wanting to build for the future, but this move showed me, while the Flyers are trying to buy themselves some time in lowering expectations. Hey, the Devils are going to be much better in the division. Look out. Let's see what happens. This move showed me they're closer to where they want to be than I think they're leading on.
I think so. I think I've said this about the Briere administration, if you will. It's under promise, over deliver when it comes down to it. And I also think, Mitch Cobb being here, I think even if it's just 9 games, I have no information on this or anything, but I'm just thinking in terms of comfortable. If you're Mitch Cobb, all attention is going to be toward you. But now that Luchanko's there, there's 2 of them. There's 2 for a rookie skate. That's a great, that young to be in the NHL, and you start off basically in Canada, Alberta and British Columbia, and the storyline isn't just Mitch Cobb. It's 2. And I got to think it's a little more comfortable for both to have this situation going on, somebody going through not identical, but kind of the same thing. All of a sudden, it's not just, there's one story. No, there's a couple of storylines here with young players. And I think that's going to help. Plus, when you've got young players, although the veterans welcome them into a camp, it's still competition. It's like, you're a teammate, but that's also my job you might be taking too. So I think it's a healthy dynamic to have going in, at least early in the season. Yeah,
pushes everyone to the point where Danny Briere was very adamant, especially in his press conference. I was kind of surprised he said this, that while everyone came back in great shape, he wasn't exactly pleased with the way the veterans played in the preseason. And John Tortorella kind of backed off on that, saying that he agreed, but didn't notice it as much. I was surprised Danny Briere said that. And to me, that's a wake-up call. For example, guys like Scott Laughton, who I don't think necessarily had a bad preseason, but now you have an 18-year-old breathing down your back that has a lot of speed, a lot of skill. It's definitely a wake-up call.
Oh, definitely. I was surprised too, because usually it's I don't know if there's ever been a situation where Tortorella is the softer voice on something going in. So I was surprised there. And I think that's also the reason with the Luchanko here. It's like, all right, we're going to play, we're going to play the guys that played the hardest, that made the biggest impression here. And there's a job opening there for it. And I think they're also trying to warn the Flyers warn them against, you did a whole lot last year, and there's a tendency to, it's going to just carry over. No, it's not going to carry over, especially with this horrible start they have this season. You better be ready to fly as soon as that puck drops on Friday night.
Yeah, and I think a lot of questions right now, and John Tortorella, I think, hindering expectations, saying that the goaltending situation scares the crap out of him, and rightfully so. But I don't feel that to that extreme, because I think we all believe in Sam Ersson, and look at the year he had last year and what he had to go through. I think we're going to see big strides from Sam Ersson when he had a full offseason to prepare, knowing he's the starting goaltender. I have more questions about Ivan Fedotov, whether he can take the load off Sam Ersson, because Sam Ersson just frankly played way too much last year to even have a chance to be as successful as he could be. So that's my bigger pressure, I think, on the goaltending situation. But we also haven't seen Sam Ersson do this, so we can't say for sure this is going to work.
Yeah, we're back to Flyers question mark with goaltenders. With again, believe it or not, looking at 2 kids that aren't even here in Russia. One raw prospect coming up that got all kinds of eyes on him now, and Kolosov. So it's like that question is still there. I think Ersson's under. Although you're going to say, oh, well, he played last year, he's going to be used to it. He's a pretty cool character coming in. I think he's under some pressure here to like, okay, you're the guy. We'll see what happens here. Fedotov, I think, is the backup, and he's got to be good enough because they have back-to-back starting first week of the season, the first couple of games. Come in. Yeah, be ready to go. But I think Ersson's going to have to calm a lot of fears, not just from fans. I mean, players even looking at the goaltender. What do we got here? What's it going to be like? So I'm sure that he's going to be. I mean, he worked at it. He's been here a while now. He knows what's expected. But you just never know with goaltenders. And I just hope he doesn't have to be elite. I want him to be elite, but I'm hoping that they score enough goals that you don't want to be one of those teams where, one bad goal goes in and oh my God, we can't get it back. I'm hoping they've got enough to make up for that. So it's funny. I look at the goaltending and I think if their offense can be a little bit better, their goaltending doesn't have to be 100% better. You're not going to be where you were a year ago with Carter Hart. You're just not going to be there with the kind of first half of the year he had before everything fell apart. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to have to – he's calm. There's no doubt about that. But I think underneath he knows that I have a chance here to be the guy. My hope is when it comes to the Four Nations tournament, Sweden's one of the countries here that he's in the conversation to be on that team for Team Sweden come, I think it's late January, February.
Yeah, that would be great news for the Flyers. And I think Sam Ersson, just a guy very easy to root for. You can tell his teammates really care about him. So hopefully he can get the spot and have success early in the season. And another guy, it's funny, Al, when we talk about him, we kind of talk about him as an addition, but he's not an addition, is Rasmus Ristolainen. And I think probably the star of training camp and preseason. He has looked great. He looks healthy. And the importance of having a guy like him back can't be overstated. But it's factual that we kind of just forgot about him at the end of last year, especially.
Yeah, he's a pretty big guy to forget about. Yeah. but because of the injury and he's not there, he's another curious character. He's important to me to have the whole defense solidified in front of the goaltending. A physical player, not going to drop the gloves, but a physical player. And I think he's learned to angle better. I thought last year at the beginning of the year, he was one of the most improved players, and we kind of forgot that. And the other thing that kind of makes it so he's more of a comfortable feel for the fan base or whatever is that everybody's railing about his contract previously, but you see what contracts are now up to in the NHL. It's like, man, it's not that out of line. And if he lives up to it, it's not out of line at all. And that he can bring that physical presence, and he's necessary to, you look at this league now, big defensemen, you need that as at least part of the recipe that you have to have a success in this league. And he could be a huge part of that. Just stay healthy. And I guess the term would be stay in your lane when he doesn't go chasing everything and trying to make that one big play, one big hit. He's a very, very effective defenseman. And I think also he's an energy guy too, because you expect to see him in front of the net or whatever. He can do things that it's like, well, there goes Risto. And it can charge you up there. So I'm hoping that that's kind of the surprise, the bonus that you get from people that had kind of just forgotten about him. As you said, that he comes back and makes a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and that's why I think when people say that this Flyers defense really hasn't made any improvements, and that's the worry of a lot of fans we talk to, is where does this defense stand? I think fans a lot of times forget about Rasmus Ristolainen and the impact he can have on this defense, where I think it's a little, dramatic's the wrong word, but I think it's a little overplayed that this defense is going to be as bad as people think. If this goes the way it's supposed to, which is Jamie Drysdale healthy, taking a huge step, Cam York taking another step, Rasmus Ristolainen frankly just being present, this defense is way better than where it was supposed to be last year.
Yeah, it's got some depth to it. And that's what you really like. It got some depth to it. So we'll see. I mean, when you look at it, I guess the knock would be, do you have that star? That's do you have that, around the league, and you look at Makar, you look at Jersey's got a kid that's flying. I mean, you look at New York, Step Fox that's flying. Do you have that guy? I don't know that you have that guy, and that's where I think the worries are for the Flyers. Can you win without that guy, that's absolute stud number one defenseman? Can you get past with the balance that you have? Yeah,
and it's going to be by committee as of right now. I mean, I think Drysdale or York, they might have that in them eventually, and maybe this is the year that they prove that. But I think as a whole, the $1 million question we keep getting asked is, are the Flyers going to make the playoffs this season? And we both believe, yes, under big hindrance, that this power play has to get better, and just get better to the point where it is even below average. I mean, you look at Danny Briere's honesty saying that if the Flyers even got up to the 22nd, 23rd power play last season, they are for sure in the playoffs. And we know they were second worst in the league. So if you can be in the 20s in the power play this season, that's the biggest hindrance, I think, of the Flyers making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it is. And if you look at it, it makes up for goaltending. If the goaltending isn't superior and you get that one power play goal, it makes an enormous difference. It's a weird watching that power play though in the preseason. I don't know if I've ever seen teams. I mean, you top two defensemen, Sanheim and York. I mean, I would think that's where you're looking at, right? But there's units where they're not on a power play, which is really odd. When you look at it, it's like Drysdale, Zamula back there, and they've tried everything. I think that the key is going to be, I don't know what Luchanko, but I do think, when you look at Michkov, he can really be a difference maker on that power play. And that's where I think you're trying to find some chemistry. And that, I think, is where we're going to be looking for in the power play. Where's he going to go? Where's he going to set up? Is it going to be Morgan Frost there? Who's going to be on that? I like Drysdale on that blue line coming across and kind of moving everything from one side of the rink to the other. So, like you mentioned, that's enormous. If that power play just is average, just as Danny said, you really make an enormous difference, and you're in that playoff picture if everything goes as you plan. And that's where the pressure, I think, is on Mitch Cobb. The pressure's on Drysdale. It's just they can try to. I don't even know if they're going to try. They know they're going to be under a spotlight on it. This first time there's a power play advantage. I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night and you're watching game of the West Coast. Go, okay, let's see what happens. And if the power play goes like 0 for 3, it's like, okay, we're going to go through this again. Yeah. So the dream would be, first 4 games, you come back to the Wells Fargo after being out there and you've got 3-4 power play goals and you've got a unit that everybody wants to see get going.
Yeah. Well, I think that's key is just have a unit, because Rocky Thompson was telling us, and we all knew it, but we knew they had no other choice last year, was every single game, it was a different power play going out there. And you're thinking, how in the world can this ever work or click when it's always changing? But they didn't have personnel to even make it work. So I think if you can go these 2 weeks and you can say with confidence what the power play unit is, I think that's success alone.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me because we'd be in the studio, we're not the coaches, we're not the geniuses, and we'd say like, well, you got to keep this thing together a little while. You can't keep, and sure enough,
we're trying to guess who go out.
Yeah, now we hear him say, we kept moving the parts here. What the heck's how you're supposed to do anything here? It was bizarre to watch it. Like it was. I think as a team and a coach, I think it was embarrassing at times to see that number just sink lower. And we used to make a joke like decline the penalty or whatever, to decline the power play advantage, but it was no joke. I mean, you really as soon as they announced they were on the power play, it's like, oh no,
go get your soda. Yeah,
the other team's going to get all sorts of energy out of this. Like Lou Nolan should have been saying for the other team, and now the Devils are on the Flyers power. The Devils advantage on the Flyers power play.
Yeah, it got that bad. And that's why, needless to say, it just needs to get a little bit better. I love when Danny Briere said, hey, we know we're not going to be top 10. We're just trying to find a little bit of improvement here. And that's what's key is I think there's so much pressure on this power play. It's got to click, and it's got to click, I think, at the beginning.
I don't think there's any question. It's going to be better just because Mitch Cobb's there. I have no doubt that one element is going to make them 10% better right from there.
Yeah. And as we say, the Flyers, they start the season on the road big time. You got Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday on the road, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Seattle.
Yeah.
3 winnable games, I would say, but the beginning of the season is always so hard to predict, especially as of late. The Flyers have started red hot at the beginning of the season, and that gets them nowhere. So I think as a whole, a little bit of patience is okay here.
Yeah, after the last couple of fast starts, I don't think people would panic on it. And I hate the start to the season. Edmonton had a horrible opening, so maybe that's not as bad as you thought coming in. Their goaltender was pulled. It was I really don't like, the worst part to me is you're coming home on basically no rest from the West Coast and opening on a Saturday night here. After being, you play on Thursday, travel on Friday, open on Saturday. Wow,
the day off.
That's a lot to ask here. So but I guess the energy would be, you've got a new season, a new building, a couple of kids that everybody's going to be excited about. So I guess no matter if you played 10 minutes before, you're going to be jacked up for that game.
Yeah. And I know, Al, I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions as well. I've never been asked by so many people for home opener tickets or tickets in general. And I'm getting like a couple texts a day. And I think that's a great sign because, that definitely didn't happen last year.
Yeah, especially right after the Phillies lost, they got like 15 right there.
Yeah, those calls like we need something else to get excited about. To the point where I was out at a sports bar in Fishtown watching the Phillies game, and I had people coming up to me saying, "What time's pregame Friday? We're so excited!" Like, I just think people need to turn their attention to something else because of this pain, and I hope the Flyers can live up to it, and the Sixers as well. I think there's a reason for both teams. You should be excited about it going into this year.
Well, welcome to Philadelphia, Ashlyn. Now you know what it's like to have that team fall apart when you thought they were going to win it all.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. We'll see if the Flyers can do their part. That is South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original brought to you by 94 WIP. And Jack Daniels will be back next week to recap this first leg of away games. Hockey season is finally here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.